How would you grade the Chicago Bulls to this point in the season? Let's talk about it, starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page as we do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It is the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Here's the thing. We are now 21 games into the season. Our Chicago Bulls team is not exactly the team that we thought we were going to see starting the season. Thought that they would be a little bit more consistent, seeing as how they bet on continuity. But what we're sitting at right now is a 9-12 team going into tonight's game versus the Golden State Warriors. So what would you grade this team? And I want to break it down in three different ways, right? Of course, we're going to break it down offensively, going to break it down defensively, break it down from a coaching standpoint, because I feel like, right, all of these things play into what we've seen from the Chicago Bulls this season. Let's start off with offensively, right? Offensively, I don't care what the Chicago Bulls rating is, where the Chicago Bulls sit, all of that. The Chicago Bulls offense, for me, based on the modern NBA, is a D. It is a D. It is not good. There are moments where the Chicago Bulls offense stands out. There are moments where the Chicago Bulls offense is clicking, but it's so, I got to get you back. You knock down a three, I'm going to come down, knock down a three. Hey, we're going to get one shot out of this. Let's get the ball in DeMar's hands. It's so one-on-one base or drive and kick base, but there's not any action off of that drive and kick. Everybody's standing around. Once again, I'll give you my impersonation of Pat the I'm giving you my impersonation of me. I'll give you my impersonation of Patrick Williams on offense. That's it. He doesn't move, right? This offense just doesn't move. The Chicago Bulls have to figure out a way to get this offense to move around. There has to be more ball movement involved in this thing, and there hasn't been any. It's been very one-dimensional. And then even on top of that, right, we haven't seen the Bulls really go to anything that works with any consistency consistently, right? The one thing that I think the Bulls have an advantage on almost every night is going to the big man down low, going to the post game, attacking in the post. And we don't go to it. We don't use it. We don't utilize it. Even tonight versus the Golden State Warriors, the Bulls have an advantage on the big man position. It's the only spot where you actually have an advantage if you give the ball to Vooch in the paint. We're not going to do it consistently, more than likely, because that hasn't been what this offense has been all season. So for me, right, I look at this team offensively, and I give them a D for the offense the Chicago Bulls team has put up this season. Now, defensively, before I continue with the video, I haven't done one of these short videos like this in a minute. Before I continue with the video, man, I want to know how you guys feel about this Bulls. How do you feel the Bulls should be graded? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Hit that like button, man. Subscribe to the page because I want to know how you guys feel. And we are going to be talking Chicago Bulls every single day on this channel, especially with the season going on, the season cracking, and me doing all of the Bulls live calls. So appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Defensively, how would you grade this Chicago Bulls team? For me, as I'm breaking this down, right, as I look at the defense of this team, I'll give the defense a little bit better grade than I'll give the offense, seeing as how this is still just outside of a top 10 defense in the NBA. I think we watch it very closely, so we have a lot of issues with it, and I have a lot of issues with this defense this season, right? But here's the thing. my issue with the defense is the same issue that I have with the offense, right? It's the consistency of it. It's the theme of the Chicago Bulls this season. Billy Donovan said it best. They're consistently inconsistent, right? Especially, right, like you look at the offense having moments, very similar on both sides, right? Just full-on moments where there's just a scoring drought, where there's just not there's 6-7 minutes in a game where we just don't put up points, and then we end up losing games that way, right? And I think that has an inverse relationship to what we see defensively, because when we go through those 6-7 minute scoring droughts, we're usually giving up 8-9 points, mostly from the 3-point line. And the thing that you'll see, right, is a lot of that is in the first half of games. In the first half of games, the Chicago Bulls are one of the worst teams closing out on the 3-point line this season. So you got to be better at that. You have to start attacking teams earlier in these games. You have to start attacking teams and defending them better earlier in these games. Otherwise, you're going to continue to put yourself in a position where you're not able to or where you're spending every moment of the game having to fight your way back into it. That remains. And that's what you see with this Bulls team, right? In the second half, Bulls are one of the best defensive teams at closing out. Bulls are one of the best defensive teams at on-ball defense in the second half of these games. And especially, right, if it's a crunch time fourth quarter moment, all of a sudden we all can defend, right? That can't be the philosophy of this team. That can't be what this team is moving forward. If that's what the case is going to be, you're not going to win many of these tough games because these teams can put you away early really quick. You saw that with the Phoenix game, right? It didn't take much for the Chicago Bulls to get behind in that game. A first quarter that we thought, okay, this quarter is actually a little bit competitive. Phoenix pulled out at the end of the first quarter, but it was a competitive first quarter. The second quarter was the end of the game. Devin Booker starts cooking. All of a sudden, it's a what that quarter in 37-18 quarters, something like that, something crazy like that, right? And you're getting dominated in that quarter. But then you look at the rest of the game, and the Chicago Bulls actually were competitive the rest of the game, but you didn't have enough to come back from a 20-point deficit. So for me, the grade that I'm looking at this defense with, I'll give you a C, maybe a C- on it, because you're playing at least a half a game of defense. But the thing is, it's the wrong half. Well, I guess not, right? I want you playing defense in the second half, but just give me a full game of defense. And again, I've talked about this all season, right? The biggest thing for me is that this Bulls team, when they win, they're just doing the things that we already know they can do for 4 quarters. They're just doing that. Like, we know the Bulls can play defense. We know that the Bulls can score the basketball. It's about doing it for 4 quarters. 48 minutes of intensity. That's what it comes down to, right? When we beat Milwaukee, we played defense for 4 quarters. When we beat Boston, we played defense for 4 quarters. We played defense for 3 quarters versus the Phoenix Suns. And not really, actually. We were pretty poor defensively in all of those quarters. But you know what I mean? Like, that's what it comes down to. It's about just doing the job for 4 quarters, doing what we already know you can do for 4 quarters. Let's keep it going, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love, man. Here's the final question, right? What would you grade? As my alarm starts going over there, don't worry about that. What would you grade the coaching staff of this team, Billy Donovan, and how he's adjusted this season, how he has come out and kind of set this team up? For me, I'm looking at Billy Donovan, and there's a few things that for me, there's a lot more on the players, right? As you hear the tough grades for the players, tough grades for the team. We need to see more out of this team as a whole, offensively and defensively. But for me, right, Billy Donovan does play a part in that. I think that Billy Donovan comes into a game and has his game plan set. He has what he wants to do set in his mind already. And then he does not change that much throughout the game until halftime gets there. We've all seen it. It's what we talked about with Billy Donovan coming into this season, coming into his tenure as a Chicago Bulls head coach, and that, he's not going to do very much adjusting in game. What I will say is we've seen Billy Donovan trying to adjust. We may not give it credit, but we've seen Billy Donovan trying to adjust, right? Defensively in that Phoenix Suns game, Billy Donovan threw everything at Devin Booker that Devin Booker can handle, and Devin Booker continued to cook everything you threw at him. He threw a boxing one. He put multiple players on him. He tried to face guard him. He tried to run a zone on him, right? Nothing worked against Devin Booker. He was on fire. And I think we've seen moments of that this season where the Bulls have changed their defensive schemes, where the Bulls have tried to change up some of their offensive schemes, where the Bulls have tried to do some things differently. Again, I put a lot on the players, but the one thing that I will say is that Billy Donovan, that last game was kind of the first game where you saw some real fury out of him, right? Where he's calling timeouts, he's yelling at guys on the sideline. I think there's moments, not to say that you should be doing that every single game, but I do think there's moments where somebody has to be the voice that is the voice of fury that's holding this team accountable. Clearly, it's none of the players on this team, because when you look at the players on this team, right, you see that they kind of, you love that everybody gets along and that everybody's happy and kumbaya and all that, but who's the person that's going to say, hey, yo, we got to get it together. We got to go out here and get this done. I think you got a lot of guys that'll go out there and say, I got to get this done. I got to get, right? DeMar DeRozan will say, I got to put the team on my back, or Zach LaVine will say, I got to put the team on my back. I think that more so you need to see a team that has somebody out there that's saying, hey, let's get this together. Let's win this thing as a team. When we play team defense, when we're on a string, when like we were in that Utah game, right? That's when all of a sudden we look good, or we look our best this season. Those are the moments where we look our best this season. And you know what? When you run an offense that is a mid-range offense like this, and again, I'm looking at Billy Donovan, guess what? You got to get these guys informed defensively. It still falls on you. Players got to make the plays. Players got to go out there. But I think that, right, you've got to figure out a defensive set that this team can run. And let's go back to that defensive lineup that we saw, right? Like, there was some defensive lineups we saw early on in the season, and the biggest thing is, right, just we gotta be able to lock those down. We got to be able to hold on to those defensive lineups and get them in the game at the right moment. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at Billy Donovan with. So for me, right, if I'm going to give Billy Donovan a grade right now, I'm looking at Billy Donovan. I'm going to give him a C, a high C. It's still not great, but I think that Billy Donovan is trying to do some things to help this team move in the right direction. I just think that there's a lot of players on this team that get comfortable doing their own thing, and they revert back to what makes them comfortable. I feel the same way about Billy Donovan, though. But I do at least feel like Billy Donovan is trying to get something out of this team. I just feel like, right, like, there's one thing that cures everything, right? Zach LaVine knocking down shots at the end of the day. And through 20 games, we haven't seen our stars be our stars. That's our biggest thing. I talked about this over on Locked On Bulls. At the end of the day, guess what? Everybody else improved. When you're betting on continuity, you need your players that you bet on to at least stay the same. They cannot get worse. Everything else improved around you. Goran Dragic has been nice. Andre Drummond has been nice. Javonte Green has improved his game offensively. Alex Caruso starting to come around on the offensive end, knocking down some shots, and on the defensive end still doing some things. Patrick Williams has played better. Everybody else on this team has gotten better, except the players that you need to be your stars night in and night out. So now it begs the question, hey, what is this team going to be if your stars aren't being your stars? And I think that's what has led this Bulls team to be here. So, hey, hopefully, first quarter of the season, this is the one thing that I will say to all the Bulls fans out there. First quarter of the season, there is a long way to go. Don't think that there's not. There is a long way to go in this season. There is a lot of season left. We've seen teams have a struggle out of the gate very often, even through the first 20 games. We've seen the teams struggle mightily, and the Chicago Bulls have probably struggled as much as you can without actually just flat out sucking. We've seen this before. It's not new. It's not the end of the world. If we get into all-star break and stuff like that and we're still looking like this team, then you know what your team is 110%, right? But right now, your record is what your team is. And right now, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's a consistently inconsistent team because we've seen them come out versus top playoff teams in this Eastern Conference and absolutely dominate or absolutely look like, oh, my God, these guys are one of the best teams in the league. And we've also seen them come out versus some of the worst teams in this league who I still think have more talent than most people will give credit for, right? I think that the OKCs and the Orlando Magics and things like that are actually moving up in the talent pool, and so now games are just tougher. But at the same time, right, they should still be games you're getting the win. You have more talent than they do, and the Bulls are coming out on the losing end of those. So got to figure out kind of how to hold that down, man. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the comments below. Hit that like button, man. Subscribe to the page. I want to know how you guys feel, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I'll be in the comments talking with you as well. What are your grades for the Chicago Bulls team this year? Give me the offensive grade, the defensive grade, what you would grade Billy Donovan, and then, of course, grade overall. Listen, as the grades I gave, grade overall, Bulls are a C-. C- start in the beginning of the season. Hate to say that, but it is what it is. Got to improve it. Let's get the second quarter turned around. We go up against Golden State tonight. Let's go get this dub. Okay. We go up against Golden State tonight. We haven't defended the three-point line well. This is going to be interesting. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bulls content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.